Good morning, good morning. This is Spirit Journey, and today is August 7th, 2017, and it is now 12:16 p.m. I feel I'm revisiting this racialistic life question, and I feel I need to readdress the issue. I was watching this video by Alba Wyman. I forget which episode it was. It was either 65 or 66, between 65 and 69 episode. And it was about a man who was involved in the slave trade. And before I forget that, my watching it, like I mentioned earlier, that this black issue is being resurfaced again, and that was also because of some of the people who commented on one of my videos. And it's about the blacks and Native American issues, and I said some things in the video that upset a lot of people, but I put it out as a challenge for them, challenge them, hey, prove your claim. And I thought some of these people were being so brazen in their claims that in the back of my mind, I think I was really wondering, hey, do they really have a claim at this? That slavery didn't happen, or we were actually here? But I'm glad I'm standing my ground, because I have documents of one of my direct ancestors who I have a photocopy of her emancipation papers, and the database where I got it from has a whole slew of documents of people and where they were from, and some of them said Africa. They didn't say the Americas or an India, nothing like that. So I have that as proof. And then either yesterday or the day before yesterday, I found a video. It was a series of videos. His last name, I think his first name was Cujo, something like that. Lewis. He was one of about 100 people who were stolen from Africa and was sent to Alabama as a slave. And he was still alive. He was brought over in 1863. They were smuggling this ship in, this slave ship, because at this time, the transport of captives was illegal. To have slaves was not illegal. In some of the states, in the southern states, it was not illegal. But the importation of captives to be sold as slaves was illegal. And so in 1863, it was a ship of about 100 people, and this one man, Cujo Lewis, was one of them. And he was interviewed by another famous black woman. What's her name? Zora Nelson or Nielsen something. And it's a videotape of him, and he looked like a strong man. And no, he was not Native American. He was brought from Africa on a slave ship, just like what all of us were told, And I was so, I'm glad that I found this video. It was just by chance. And it's documented. That's one thing post-slavery. It was well documented. And after the Civil War, there were many people who were interviewed. And even in the West Indies, they were interviewed. And they wanted to document what happened to them. And I think these documents are in the Library of Congress. I'm not sure about that, but it's documented. Okay? And so this was a real person. And they were interviewed. And I want to find out about, like what age he was brought over. How old was he when, he was kidnapped, and what were the circumstances of him being brought over? What was it? What happened? What nation did he come from, or tribe? See, that's real. And as this one YouTuber would say, he mentioned something about first-hand knowledge, primary source, they call that, primary source. And so that man, Kudjo Lewis, is a primary source when you read the documents about him, because it interviewed him at that time. And so this is history and it's truth. But you have these YouTubers who are now trying to teach that black people were from somewhere else and totally denying history, and they want to believe a fantasy. And that's what I'm angry about. You could be mixed or part of anything. That's your business. But to deny a major thing in history and things that I have to document, that's what I have my problem with. Then I saw today this YouTuber who is a she is a past life regressionist. And this one episode she had, I forget which episode number, it's from 6.5 to 6.9 video of hers. And it's entitled, this man had said that he was involved with the slave trade. Well, this wasn't just a man that was involved in the slave trade. It was a remarkable session. In short, when this person was being regressed, he remembers being this man, a very light-skinned man, long, straight black hair, and his job was to wash the slaves when they come off the ship, the slave ship. It's horrible, John, and just how he described everything. And he tells of seeing the ship coming in to port, and the man coming off the ship and how he hated the guy. It turns out that that man that he despised was actually his father. He was the byproduct of a black captive woman and a Spaniard, and he was the byproduct. I think by this time his mother was gone. I don't know what happened to her. But he worked on the slave ship, and he didn't really know his identity. He really didn't understand. He, like the Abba asked, "Oh, what color are you?" And he says, "My skin is white." So I'm thinking, wow, they have a white dude doing this type of work. I said, boy, that's a real, but no, it makes a lot of sense now. It makes a lot of sense that these Spaniards and other Europeans had children with African women and indigenous women of the Americas, and had their own children do the dirty work. But the story gets even deeper. The psychology of these people. Well, it turns out that this, what was that now? One of them was mistreated. Oh, he mentioned, like, before you really understood who the father was or something, that his father, like, they asked him, how did you make you feel doing that? He said, made him feel powerful. You know? Oh, I'm confusing two stories. I'm sorry. In the past life regression, I think they were able to interview the child's father, like the person who washed the slave's body. They were able to get in contact with that person's own father, and she's interviewing him, and he said that he was abused by his father. Yes, that's how it went. He was abused by his father. He was beaten all the time, and his mother just watched. And then he said he did it because he wanted to be powerful. He didn't want to be, he wanted to always feel that he's in control. And all the things that his father did to him, he did to his own child, who was a byproduct of a slave woman. He didn't love his child. But it's something how things happen. And then the story twists even more. That Alba asked them, well, why was this done? Was there someone in your past, like, to look at the eyes of the person? And did you know this person in a prior life? And the answer was yes. That the woman that he raped was someone that in a past life said betrayed him. And I think that the person in past life was, again, another woman. And I think the person was what was that? I hope I'm not getting it confused with somebody else, but it was some type of betrayal. So the person was his sister. That's right. The person was his sister, and she betrayed him, but he didn't say what the betrayal was. And then in this new life, he gets back at the sister by raping this woman. This is something. Again, I don't know what to believe. It doesn't make sense that someone does something to you, and then in the next life you do something against them, but then they say that you decide who you want to become in the next life, and that to learn lessons. Now, I don't know. So then it's not betrayal, or if you say, okay, I want you to do this to me in this life. I don't know. So it's hard for me to really understand that aspect of someone choosing to be someone of a particular life, a new life, and then you're going to betray them. And one person betrayed somebody, in some other regression of another person, someone was promised to get married, but the guy was brought to war, And the lady's upset, oh, you betrayed me. You said you're going to marry me. But he didn't have a choice. They threw him in the war. And then in the next life, what she did, she stabbed him or something. I say, this is just getting out of hand. One has nothing. Oh no, she didn't stab him. The person got shot. The person was talking to someone, and they were drunk at the time. They were in the military, and then person didn't like something, didn't like him or something about him, and so they put him in the firing squad and killed him. It was something about betrayal. They just felt it was a payback from a prior life. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, what do we learn from this? And these so-called schools to learn lessons. Would it be easier for you to learn your lesson in that environment that you're in on the other side, rather than come in the physical? It sounds far-fetched. But all this got me to thinking that this is what I really want to get at. That I started evaluating my life. I started saying, okay, let's pretend I'm at a session with Alba, and let's say she asked me in this session, with my current life, what did I learn from it? Because a lot of times she'll say that. She'll say, what did you learn in such and such life? And then this would be my answer, that I see a pattern, that I'm in a very male-dominated environment growing up, and I felt from a very young age that I saw men and women were treated differently, and the men had priorities over women, and that my earliest account was that women had to change their names when they get married, but not men. And I resented that. No one ever told me about things like this, but I saw that at early age that women were required. And I felt uncomfortable, and I felt like that women were mistreated at work. Everything was about being disempowered and being harassed on jobs, in the street, because I'm a woman. Being violated at home because I'm a woman. So all my life I was always feeling like I'm being predated by men and being angry. And then I came to this memory. I have in the past talked to a psychic, one of those, people who do that type of stuff. And she said that, I think I might have asked her, hey, did I have past lives, whatever, because that was also supposed to be her specialty as well, I think. And she said, yes, you had many lives. And she said, a lot of lives that you had, she said, that I was killed. And that my last life, she said that I was a Japanese man who died in war, I think in World War II, in the 1930s or 40s. And he was in his 20s. He had an injury in his chest. He might have gotten blown up or something in his chest wound. And I thought, wow. And then this thing came to my mind in trying to put the pieces together. Now, I don't know whether that's true. That's her, what do you call it, her say. She can say anything. I don't know. But if what she said were true, then the correlation is, well, one thing in Japan, women don't really have that much rights. Women are taken advantage of. I've met 2 women from the United States who were living there, and they did not enjoy being a woman or a white woman in Japan. They hated it. And I recently saw a video, a documentary about the women of Japan and how they're being stalked, many of them, and being killed. But things like that is being hush-hush. They just want you to think Japan, they have good businesses there and they're very professional. But you don't really learn about their culture. So I was like, wow. I was like, my mouth dropped when I saw that. And then I started thinking about my life and how I was mistreated. And then I started thinking, was I that man that the psychic said that I was? That I was a Japanese man who died in battle, in war? Then I asked myself, was I a bad person in Japan? Did I abuse women? Did I do all the things that are happening to me? Was I if I had sisters, did I take advantage of them? Did I abuse them? Boy, this is really something. And this is why I'm also doing this video. That rather than waiting till we get to the other side, if it's another side, to start asking yourself these questions now. Why am I here? What message or what did you learn from the life you're living now? I think that's a very good thing to do, and I appreciate that I'm able to ask myself that question. Because when you look at your life, you start to see patterns. And you ask us, why? What am I to learn from this? I see that all people are hurting. I never used to think that. I thought I was the only one that was hurting. And I really thought the problems I had was all due to race. And I'm seeing that we're all hurting. Some people might be better at hiding their pain. But I see that you have men and women who are hurting. You have all nationalities that are hurting. And if we'll just keep on re-hurting each other in new lives, when we get reincarnated, if that's true, it has to stop. So I want to look within myself, and I want to apologize to anyone that I ever hurt there in the spirit realm. If I've ever violated anybody or hurt anybody, if I ever disrespected anyone, that I'm truly sorry, and I hope you accept my apology. I don't want to be in this wheel of reincarnation. I think it's an endless cycle. You never really outgrow it. We'll never become perfect. And it has to be a better way of life. don't want to come back down here again. And I really want a beautiful life. One of these people who will regress said that that life was meant to be enjoyed, to be a pleasure. I want to choose that too. That my life here is about being happy. And I wish the same for all of you who listen to this video. I know it's getting kind of long. Let's love ourselves and realize that everybody else is in the same game, that we think that everybody's different. It starts to look that way. But if this is all about reincarnation and getting into certain types of bodies, it's not worth it. And that it's all an illusion. If we're so preoccupied with race and genetics, but if we're spirit bodies who can jump into any vessel, because the body is just a vessel. It doesn't do anything but what the spirit have it do. So I think learning about our spiritual history more so than the biological history is what should really be focused on. What is our spiritual history? That is the question. And so that's how I want to end this video. And what a lesson to learn, huh? So, going to close this video, and I hope you learned something like I just did. Bye-bye.